Okay, just for fun, I decided to do a quick video on changing out the brake pads on this 2003 Honda Accord. This would pretty much be a similar process in just about any vehicle, almost every vehicle. This rotor needs to be cleaned up, so I'm gonna probably sand that a little bit, get some cleaning fluid on there, but I'm not gonna put a new rotor on today. But to get started, I actually need to take off the brake caliper right here. So I've got this bolt up here, one down on the bottom, just these two, but they're big ones. I'm going to put a little WD-40 on them to loosen them up. You can use penetrating oil, whatever you want to use, just to get in there and get some of that grit out of there and make it a little bit easier to get them started. And I'm going to take this whole caliper off, so I'm going to show you that. I'll go ahead and do that step and show you what it looks like afterwards. Got the two bolts out. These are actually 14 millimeter on this Accord. And then this caliper, kind of work it off. And I'm gonna kind of lean it over here, back here. I just set this cinder block under here, so I could kind of set it on there. You don't want it, don't hang it, don't let it hang from the brake line here. You don't want that, that's not good on the brake line. You can zip tie this up, you can set it on something. I just put it on this little piece of broken cinder block. So I decided to go ahead, since I'm in here, I'm gonna take off this bracket, the caliper bracket here, and clean up the clips. And you can see my brake pads here. See if you can get in there. See this metal plate on the back side helps give stability to the pad itself. And the clip here wraps around where there's the face, but you can see the brake pad in there. I actually got quite a bit of brake pad left. This is probably a bit of a waste to put new pads on, but I just put new ones on the other side, so I'll just go ahead and change these out while I'm in here. But I'll show you the new ones compared to these half-used ones. Okay, I got the next two bolts out that are holding in the caliper bracket. See, the thing's almost falling off here. So I'm gonna slide that off of there. Take a little closer look at this. These bigger ones are back in. You can see them from behind the rotor here. If you look back in here, it's on this spindle or knuckle, whatever you want to call it. These were pretty tight. So if you have an impact driver, that's the easiest thing, but it's hard to get at in there. So I just used my big ratchet, my 17 millimeter, and just tapped on the handle a little bit with this 2-pound sledge. But you could use a cheater bar or breaker bar to get those out. So now I'm gonna work on kind of cleaning up this face of this rotor a little bit, and you can see how dirty this is. Got a lot of carbon in here. I got some degreaser. I'm gonna actually these brake pads just slide right out of the bracket. So like I said, there's a little bit left, but it's probably time to change them out. Once you get this out, you'll just feel how easy they slide out. So just remember, the one with the little guide on it, the little guide on the clip, that one's gonna go, that little arm that sticks out of the back, it's gonna go on the inside, on the top. That's really the only thing you wanna notice, inside on the top. So now what I'm gonna do again is clean up the rotor a little bit, and I'm gonna pop these little metal brackets out that hold the brake pads. Look how dirty that is. I'm going to clean that up with some degreaser. I got a toothbrush, I got a wire brush. I'm going to soak it with like some degreaser and stuff and scrub them real good. And scrub off this bracket real good and just kind of clean it up a little bit, help it work a little bit better. So I just found this spray bottle of degreaser. I've had this for a little while. Cleaner degreaser. Cleans up all your engine parts. Formula 88. It's got to be good if it's Formula 88. Anyway, I'm going to kind of spray down these brackets. Let it kind of soak in. Kind of spray down my caliper frame here. You can see the carbon is running off of that grease and stuff. So I'm gonna spray this a little bit, let it soak a little bit, and then we'll scrub it, and then we'll put it back together. Okay, so I finished cleaning these up, and you'll remember they were completely black with carbon and dirt and grease, and they're never gonna look like brand new. But you can see after spraying some of that degreaser and scrubbing it with a toothbrush, and I used an old rag to wipe off a lot of the, you think they were dirty? Yeah. So anyway, I'm putting them back on this this bracket now, and I slid the one up here and put the other one back on this side. Kind of snaps in here like that. And so now, you know, it's funny, I got out the new brake pads, and I was mentioned earlier probably had a little life left in them, but not really. Look at the new one compared to the old one. These were just about gone, so time to put the new ones on. And you can see how much brake life we're going to have on those brand new ones. We're going to be in pretty good shape. So again, these are going to slide. These are going to slide into those little metal brackets, and I'm going to slide those in and kind of show you what that looks like. But it's pretty easy to do. You'll slide these in. And remember, again, the one with the guide slides on the inside upper, right? So the other thing I'm going to do here real quick is these bolts will slide out. I'm going to clean those off, and I'm going to put a little new grease on them. You can get this at AutoZone or someplace. But I'm going to clean these off and re-grease them, and that'll help them slide smoother. So I scrubbed off the calipers with soapy water, with soapy hot water, and used this nylon brush and got them real good. I said calipers, sorry. I scrubbed off the rotors, and so I got a lot of the grit and some of the metal shavings off of there. And we're about due for a new rotor here, but I don't have any grooves on it, and it's pretty smooth in through here, so I think I'm still okay for the time being here. I did take the new brake pads, as I showed you before. This is the old one here, but I just greased up around the little arm here at the end, because it slides back into that, remember that metal bracket we cleaned? There it is, sitting in there, that little clip. And so I greased around the end, that little arm, so that it'll slide in and out on that clip better. I've got the new pad in. There's that guide up there on the top, inside. Got the new pads, there they are on each side of the rotor. You can see them there, looking good. Now what I've got to do is I've got to compress the brake caliper here, this plunger, back in, because it's been pushed out and was pressing against the old brake pads, which were a lot thinner. So this space in between here is not going to fit around the new pads. So let me show you how to do that here in just a second. Now what I went in and got one of my clamps I actually use for some of my woodworking. And you might have any kind of clamp like this. But you can see I've put the top of it around the top of the caliper. I've put an old brake pad. I've just kind of used it as a shim and put it in there up against that plunger, that boot there. And now I've got the clamp on this side. I'm just going to slowly kind of turn it, and you're going to watch as I start to compress this. And just by putting the reverse pressure on it, it's going to push that arm, that plunger, back up into the caliper. See it? You can see it kind of going back up in there. And what I'm doing is I'm widening this space, this gap. I'm going nice and slow. I'm actually forcing brake fluid back up through the line, back up into the line, into the reservoir. But you see as I push this back open, now I'll be able to get this caliper to slide in or across my new brake pads. There it goes. Theoretically, you might be able to do this with a big set of pliers. I don't know. You might not. I just used a little clamp that I have there in the garage. I'm gonna loosen it up. Little brake pad out of there. The clamp off. And now see my plunger is pushed back up. So now, I bring this back up. Oh yeah, I got plenty of space here now. Now, sliding that caliper back into place. And I just got to reinstall my bolts on the top and bottom. All right. I've got the bolts back in, holding the caliper back in, got those cranked down pretty good. I think technically you're supposed to use a torque wrench to a certain torque, but I just been using my regular ratchet set and just getting it down, pressed in pretty tight. I was careful not to damage the line. Now remember, I pushed that back up in the caliper, so before I start driving this thing, I want to pump the brakes and get the brake line back down through there so I can push that back down so that it's snug up against the brake pads. Otherwise, if I get rolling and try to stop, this caliper is not going to be pressing on those brake pads. So pump it real good till you pump it up tight, then you can drive it. I'm going to put the tire back on. Just for any family members that might be watching this, notice that not only do I have the car jacked up here to work on it, but I took a cinder block and slid it under the frame, and I have another board, so I shim it up because I don't have a jack stand. You need something in addition to just your standard car jack to protect you, just in case the car would roll or you're pulling really hard on a ratchet arm or breaker bar, and I've actually pulled the car and rolled it off the stand, but because I had a support underneath and the car didn't fall on the ground, you don't want to be underneath that. So always use something underneath the frame here, or a jack stand or something as a safety.